Do you remember the financial crash? Maybe you're too young to remember the financial crash, or maybe you're so old it's kind of like just, I don't know, like a figment of your imagination, or you're pushing the peas around on your plate. Well, I remember the financial crash like it was yesterday. It destroyed my rather successful business. We're doing a lot of work for local authorities, what have you. Financial crash started and sites were closing down, and we're doing work for build regulation people as well, so we're doing remedials where other builders cocked up. And we were busy. But then we had the financial crash. All of a sudden we couldn't sustain our business. We didn't have enough money coming in. We had poor cash flow. So I had to shut it down. And then I sold the house, and then we moved to France. That's pretty much the reason why we're here. Well, protections were put in place by Obama, and by the European Union and other countries. So this kind of thing couldn't happen again, where the banks couldn't lend money without having the money to back it up. There's lots of other things, lots of other stuff from that as well, which that prevented them from being able to short the mortgages, etc., etc. Now, so back then, when the financial crash of 2008, and the great financial crash, such a contraction in liquidity, the global, global financial markets, the United States, but they brought in a system. I can't remember what it's called. I think is it ESA? Economic Stabilisation Act. That's it. And there's other variations on it as well. And Donald Trump, when he was in power last time, he changed it a little bit. There was a Dodd-Frank thing, the Emergency Economic Stabilisation Act, and then Dodd-Frank, and it's basically steps in there to, well, money's effective that had been loaned under a certain amount of money didn't need to be checked and stuff like that. But over a certain limit, they had to check it out and what have you. Well, Donald Trump increased the limits. So the huge amount of finance that was given out wasn't going through the usual post-financial crash checks. But that's Donald Trump for you. That's the sort of thing he do, because he wants to make more money himself, doesn't he? He likes to manipulate the markets. We saw that yesterday, didn't we? It's just absolute. It's nuts. The whole thing is absolutely crazy. The man's a flipping lunatic. Now we've got Scott Bessent, who, oh my God, US Treasury and all that. He says, Scott Bessent says that US Treasury is going to take a stronger role in bank regulation, easing undue burdens. The burdens for them, they're there for a reason, to protect consumers of finance packages and stuff. Oh. So the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who stood up there yesterday as well, trying to make it as all part of the plan and stuff like that, as bollocks regarding the Donald Trump going back on the tariffs. What a load of bollocks. He's got to play a greater role in the banking regulation to better balance costs and benefits and ensure the lenders can finance growth in the United States economy. Basically, they're going to change all the limits again. They're getting rid of big chunks of it. End up putting you in exactly the same position you were in before. Because greedy-ass bankers are going to be, well, they just have their reins removed. They're going to run riot, aren't they? Now, in prepared remarks to an American Bankers Association conference, Bessent called for common sense principles in... you can't use... It's so nuanced. One thing can affect that so much stuff across the board you wouldn't even thought it would affect. It's crazy. In prepared remarks to an American Bankers Association conference, Bessent called for common sense principles in banking regulations to ease burdens, especially for community banks that have had to deal with rules tailored for large institutions. On the face of it, that sounds like it makes sense. But regarding lending, we all need to be on the same... We need to know where we are with it. The Bessent said Treasury's stronger involvement in the crafting bank regulation should be achieved through Financial Stability Oversight Council, which they've actually increased the limits, so they've got less work to do. He also said that he would use the President's worker group in capital markets, a smaller committee that studies financial trends and has sometimes met during financial crises. Now, the Treasury engagement with individual regulators, such as the Office of the Comptroller and the Currency of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, is another tool for this. They want to get rid of the protections for borrowers and the regulations for lenders to make it easier for lenders to lend. Now, Richie Sunak in the UK was toying with that for a while, but I think he realised it was a bit of a dumb thing to do. And it is. It's dumb. Really, really dumb. The United States is no longer, the dollar is no longer a secure currency anyway, with Donald Trump in the White House. It just isn't. You can't trust them. It's just a roller coaster ride, it really is, and it's deeply concerning. When you've got idiots there doing market manipulation, tanking the dollar, telling people that they need to invest now and then lift the tariffs or bring them down to 10%. If that ain't market manipulation, I don't know what is. They're so corrupt. They're so corrupt. And they won't be happy until they take you all down with them. And everybody else as well. It's madness. And when I hear stories about Piers Morgan or Bessent putting pressure on Piers Morgan, alright? A chat show host, Piers Morgan, putting pressure on Donald Trump about these tariffs. And because the massive bond sell-off, increasing the interest rate on bonds amount to 4.5%, and then the stock's going through the floor, downwards. Who's in charge? Honestly. Who wrote Project 2025? It must be them. Anyway, if you want a boot bill, like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm sorry it's a bit kind of all over the place, but it's just... I was getting a bit frustrated. Anyway, if you want people like button, maybe subscribe to the channel, much appreciated it is. And if you want to support the channel, you can do it on Patreon or buy us a coffee, and that's also very, very much appreciated. And links down below, but if not, you need to beat the like button. Oh well, toodaloo.